Hello students, how are you all? The topic which I'm going to explain or here is the transport of gases. As we have already read in the previous lecture that the oxygen is transported from the alveoli of the lungs to the capillary, and then from the capillary through the mechanism, through a proper mechanism, the hemoglobin will help in the transportation of oxygen. Okay, and as I have already told you that the hemoglobin, which is a protein, it helps in the transportation of oxygen as well as carbon dioxide. Here I would like to start a topic which is the transport of oxygen, and it is very important according to the examination point of view, and it usually frame as a main question, and it usually they ask that explain the mechanism of respiratory gases, or explain the mechanism of respiratory explain the mechanism of transport of oxygen. Here I would like to highlight over here that oxygen is transported in two different forms. The oxygen the transport of oxygen, during the transport of oxygen, hemoglobin will act as a respiratory pigment, and this respiratory pigment is present in the red blood cell, and this hemoglobin has a great affinity for oxygen. Okay, a great affinity of oxygen means it combines with oxygen. As I have told you that we have in the structure of hemoglobin, we have four places where the oxygen binds. So the hemoglobin will bind with oxygen. This is called the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. The ability of hemoglobin to bind with oxygen is called the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Now, the percentage of oxygen usually binds with hemoglobin. Most of the oxygen is in the bounded form with the hemoglobin. So 97% of oxygen is bounded with hemoglobin, and only 3% is in the dissolved form. As you know that we have inside the RBCs we have the hemoglobin. Okay, we have the hemoglobin, and as you know that inside this hemoglobin, inside this RBC we have hemoglobin, and that hemoglobin will carry oxygen. As I've already told you that there are four places for oxygen. Okay, this oxygen which is bounded with hemoglobin, that is 97%. Okay, and the other remaining 3%, it is in dissolved form. It is in dissolved form means it is in the fluid, in the plasma fluid. 3% is in the plasma fluid. So the transportation of oxygen, it followed a very special route, as I have told you, and I have already explained you diagrammatically that oxygen is transported from the alveoli of the lungs. And as you know that, okay, the pressure of oxygen in the alveoli is 100 millimeter of mercury. Yeah, 104. It is the pressure of oxygen in the alveoli. In this topic we will study four things: the pressure of oxygen in the different places, the amount of oxygen which is present in the arterial blood, the amount of oxygen which is present in the venous blood, and the amount which is present in the arterial blood. Means we will study the capacity of arterial blood, we will study the capacity of the hemoglobin to hold the oxygen. All right, for example, we will over here we will take the example of a beaker. As you know that, if we take the example of a beaker, and inside the beaker we have 100 ml water. Let's say, for example, we have 100 ml water in this beaker. Okay, in this beaker we have 100 ml water, and the pressure is also 100 millimeter of mercury. Here the pressure is 100 millimeter of mercury. At 100 millimeter of mercury, as you know that, for example, if we have hemoglobin, these are the four places where the oxygen binds. At 100 millimeter of mercury pressure, the oxygen is 100% saturated, as I have told you in the previous topic. It means that 100% saturated means the oxygen is present at all the four sides of the hemoglobin. All right, let me repeat it again. This is the beaker. It has 100 ml blood in it. Let's say, for example, we are taking the example of water, but if we have 100 ml blood, it means that inside the blood we have hemoglobin. 100 at pressure of 100 millimeter of mercury, the hemoglobin is 100% saturated. Okay,